elusive. It was the best example of हैं कवाकिब कुछ नजर आते हैं कुछ देते हैं धोखा ये बाजीगर खुला. So I found it quite deceptive in that respect, and I was not then afraid to venture into some sort of review of the book, because fear, as we all know, fear is just false evidence appearing real. And the title just appears to be intimidating, but it is not. It's a story of two teenage friends, two grade 6, grade 7, grade 8, 9, 10 friends who parted their ways and then reunited 40 years ago, after 40 years. In the meantime, their lives have changed. Their friendship encompasses more than half a century. ये निस सदी का किस्सा है, 2-4 बरस की बात नहीं. So that encouraged me, and then I started to read the book and compare the two authors and realize that their comparison is really not justified. They're very different people. Khalid, as usual, is daring, is hilarious on many occasions, and doesn't shy away being self-deprecating. Dr. Zubairi is serious, scholarly, but at the same time very passionate about things he believes in. And what I was surprised was that he is really not afraid challenging the quote-unquote his liberal critics who may otherwise put other people to shame almost with their backwardness and all that, but he takes a stand, and a very passionate stand and a very rational stand. That, I thought, was something that was very rare in this book. The comparison of the two in terms of how they measure against each other is really unfair. It is almost like, I'm going back in history, it's almost like a match between Muhammad Ali and Inoki. Nothing in common, totally different standards. So let them, in their own way, they have said things which have nothing in common, and yet both of them have taken the book along. And the title, although the title says religion, science, and psychology, but when you read the book, the title could have been the 3 other segments. Organically, your book, Dr. Zubairi and Khalid, is divided into 3 segments that I could see. One is autobiographical almost, the histories. You go a long way with each other. And in that you have told your stories. You have given a voice to the events that had happened 40 years ago. And then you have told not only about yourself, you have told about each other. The way that only a childhood friend could tell. Khalid hinted on something with ultrasound and all that. I won't go into that. What I found most amazing, and again, only a childhood friend could tell that, because when we look at Khalid, he is nowhere near that person that Dr. Zubairi portrays. There was a time, Zubairi says, when Khalid used to pray 5 times a day. I thought about it, and the picture of Khalid praying 5 times a day just absolutely amazed me. He was actually what Mir has said, that there se उठ के काबे आया मीर जिसको चाहे खुदा खराब करे. So with that, although other than autobiographical, the second aspect in the book, on which both writers have written very powerfully, very strongly, is the opinions, their stance, their positions on everything under the sun. Not only these 3 subjects, but everything about Pakistan, about peace movements, about how you can get along with each other. So many different things, and they have expressed their opinions, including, again, Khalid has put it, although the book is in English, but he went out of his way to add in Urdu script, he has written about Daulat, Shohrat, Aurat. Because there's no way he can let go without it. So now the third is the very technical subjects on psychology and particularly on physics. And frankly, that is above my pay grade. I cannot comment on the technicalities of it. What I can tell you is that when you read them, sometime his theory of quantum optics, which is, for me, it is all Greek, but the way he has explained, it is almost like you watching that movie, Theory of Everything, that you must have seen Stephen Hawking's, and after that you feel that you can at least not understand but appreciate mathematics and cosmology. Same way, he has made quantum optics sort of understandable to a point where you can appreciate it, if not actually analyze and understand it properly. For me, because Khalid asked me to review the book in general, any book has to have 3 E's in it. The E's that the book should have is it should engage, it should entertain, and it should educate. It is great if the book has all 3. It's okay if it has 2. It's still passable if it has at least 1. But if there is none of that, then it's useless to put pen to the paper. There's no point in doing it. And I was impressed that this book has all 3 E's. And let me just quickly give you some examples. Engaging. The moment you start to read the book, it almost starts with, in a mysterious way. Now, Dr. Zubairi's quote is that our friendship goes beyond 50 years, but we don't really know each other. And that kind of mysterious for us, for the reader, how come you can be great friends, but really not know each other? So there he tries to make it sort of suspenseful Ibn Safi kind of a book. So you get engaged. You can't then put the book aside and you say, well, okay, no, I don't want to read it. You are engaged. And that engagement means that now at least you're going to read that book. And same way, you really wonder where this 40 years then pass by. They lose track of each other, and you don't know where this bromance would be heading. And the engagement from Khalid's point of view comes when he talks about his father. His father, a Sufi, a teacher, a mystic, he actually impacted not only Khalid, but also Dr. Zubairi. And Khalid says in that book that his condition was so intense that he knew either he's going to go to prison or he's going to end up in a mental asylum. Now, I know he didn't go to prison. About mental asylum, well, family of the heart accepted. I think he didn't go there either. But I can move on to the third E, which is entertainment. And the book really entertains. It has anecdote after anecdote of funny stories, which both of them, they are actually, they're self-deprecating in many ways. But they have the guts to tell that story. I'll give you just one or two examples. Khalid Suhail, when he finished his medical studies, obviously the next step is to go as a resident, or at that time what used to be called a house officer's job. And some people here would know the Lady Reading Hospital in Peshawar. So he applies for, or he wants to go to the psychiatry department, which is not there. So he can't go there. Now guess what he chooses after that? He decides to go to gynecology, knowing that he is the only male there. Everybody else, the doctors, the staff, the patient, they're all female. And when some Pashtun women, and some people in the audience will know how traditional and how determined those Pashtun women can be, when some young women are hesitant to be examined by him, the head nurse tells them, "Sharmal nahi, ye mard nahi hai, doctor hai." And the same way, Dr. Zubairi talks about, and I was sort of impressed with his courage. He says his mother wanted him to be a doctor. Now, understand, every South Asian mother wants their child to be a doctor. But then he says the reason for that was he was born with a missing left earlobe. Now that was a confession, because now when I see him, he has both earlobes. And the mother was so impressed by the surgeon that she said, "My son is also going to be a doctor." So that takes guts to come up with something. I won't tell you the detail of that. You have to read the book for that. The third E, the final E, is the most important, that the book should educate. And in that, on two counts, I'm particularly impressed with that. The theory of
relativity. Relativity.
No, not theory of relativity. The one that worked on so hard was the book that he wrote about
Quantum optics.
Quantum optics. That book is a textbook in Oxford University, in Cambridge University, in Harvard University, and in many other third world countries. He also came up with something which I personally believe, is going to be huge one day. And that is, I'm sure many of you remember, as children, you must have thought you are hurt and your mother has gone someplace, and then she rushes home and you say, "Mom, how did you know that I was hurt?" And she says, "I just felt that." You know siblings who are living in this continent and their brother or sister in Pakistan gets sick and they feel that pain. They suffer here. And you really wonder, how is that possible? There must be something that travels, because physical particle is essential for any kind of communication. Even frequency in its own way can be physical. And what I was most impressed was that he came up with a thesis, which, if it is taken, and he told me just now that it is being taken very seriously, if it develops into something concrete, it can really change the world like the smartphone has changed the world, like Steve Jobs has changed the world. Because what it says is that you can actually communicate without any physical particles present. That's amazing. But he did not just say it in very heavy-duty kind of terminology. He gave the title to this thesis as the carrier pigeon who was not there. Now, when I read that thing, I realized that carrier pigeon in Pakistan and India particularly, and especially in Punjabi music, Vasta-e Rabda tu Jami Ve Kabutra, we have heard that song so many times. Now when we hear about that kabutar, we won't think of Musarrat Nazir singing, dancing, we'll think of Dr. Zubairi. So it is, but it also educates in terms of the way they have explained. education systems, the way they have explained technical stuff, the way they have talked about the problems facing Pakistan, facing the Muslim world, facing South Asia, facing humanity in general. So it is very educational. But coming to religion, the segment that really interested me most was their segment on religion. Khalid has already mentioned something, Muharram and Ramadan, I won't go into that. But Khalid has a reputation of asking very direct and sometimes even very awkward questions. So he asked very directly. Sometimes people say, no, that one should not ask a question like that, but then it won't be Khalid. So he asked Dr. Zubairi if he believes in God. And the way Dr. Zubairi has carried it on, I was really impressed with that, because he went all the way to Umar Khayyam, and you know that Umar Khayyam was no model for piety. Where Umar Khayyam said, Israri azal ra natu dani unaman. We harf boimma natu khani unaman means that the secret of eternity, neither you know nor I know. This riddle, neither you have the key for that, nor I have the key for that. So anyone who tries to be a Mr. Know-All and tries to give you a certain answer that yes, God is there or God is not there, Dr. Zubairi says that it is almost the same thing, because when you say God is not there, you are committing the same error of certainty that an orthodox mullah would commit. And he also, in a very simple language, sometimes we struggle, we don't get words to express that, but he actually gives you the quotation that you can use in your discussions and in your arguments, that there's mystery, there's a need in a human being to believe in something more powerful, stronger, bigger than you are. And in that he's in good company, like Ghalib has said, Daro haram, aine takrar tamanna, bamandgi shauq tarashi hai panahi. We seek shelters. And we seek shelter sometimes even in